The Cuckoo urban legend began to spread rapidly around Korea a few years ago. Rumors were heard in schoolyards about a crazy man they called Mr. Cuckoo, or the Cuckoo Man. They said he would lurk in alleys and side streets, lying in wait for his victims. As soon as a group of young girls passed by, they would hear a voice saying, "Cuckoo." When they turned around to look, the man would attack them with overwhelming and indiscriminate violence. Some say he carried a baseball bat, and others say it was an axe. Reports claimed that many Korean girls were maimed by the crazy man, and a few were even killed. In one incident, 20 to 30 Korean schoolgirls were walking down the street, where a man suddenly stepped out of the shadows and began beating them with a club as if he was playing a game of whack-a-mole. Before the police arrived, the unidentified man fled, leaving 5 girls severely injured. They say that if you're walking down a deserted street and hear someone say "Cuckoo," then you should answer the call with "Cuckoo" and then run for your life. As the story goes, Mr. Cuckoo was a man who suffered from a severe mental illness. He was committed to an insane asylum as a mental patient. While he was being treated there, he was attacked by a female patient who beat him senseless and left him scarred for life. After he recovered, he developed an intense hatred of women. Soon afterwards, the Cuckoo Man escaped from the mental home and disappeared. The authorities were never able to track him down, and, after a while, they gave up searching for him. Today, he is still on the loose and stalks the lonely streets, looking for young girls to attack. Kids who have seen the Cuckoo Man describe him as being in his early 30s, very big and tall, and wearing a black beanie hat. According to our legend, the Cuckoo Man will sometimes ask a nonsensical question, like, "Is Mr. Cuckoo cuckoo?" or "Do you know the cuckoo?" If you don't know the answer to his question, or don't answer at all, he will immediately attack you. The best thing to do is say yes to whatever he asks, and then start running for your life. There was a 19-year-old Korean girl named Haruko who was attending university in a large city. One night, she had to stay late in the library to finish a project, and it was almost dark by the time she returned home. Haruko lived on the 14th floor of an old apartment building. She stood in the entrance and pressed the button to call the elevator. She always hated coming home alone so late in the evening. It just didn't feel safe. When the elevator came, she stepped inside and pushed the button for her floor. Just as the doors were about to close, a handsome man came running up. The man was out of breath and put out his hand to stop the doors closing. Then, he stepped into the elevator and stood beside her. "You live on the 14th floor?" he asked, seeing that the button had lit up. "Yes," replied Haruko. "Oh," said the man, smiling. "I live on the 13th. As the elevator ascended, he pressed the button for 13. Through the windows in the elevator door, Haruko watched the floors go by as they both stood in silence. She stole a few glances at the man. He certainly was handsome. She wondered if he would ever be interested in dating her. When he happened to look at her, she batted her eyelids and smiled sweetly at him. Just then, the elevator stopped at the 13th floor. The doors opened and the man stepped out. "See you later," he said. "Yes, see you," replied Haruko. As the doors of the elevator were closing behind him, the man suddenly turned around, pulled a sharp knife out of his jacket and said in a menacing voice, "Upstairs." Then, laughing like a maniac, he ran towards the staircase. There was a young woman in Korea who was blind in one eye. Eventually, she received a cornea transplant. The operation was a success and she was released from hospital. However, a week later, she stopped going to work. Her friends couldn't get in touch with her. When her parents called, she didn't answer her phone. Eventually, her parents got worried and went to her house. They knocked on the door but there was no reply. They called the police and they broke down the door. They found the young woman lying in the floor, in a pool of blood. She had sliced her wrist open and bled to death. Her parents were devastated. They couldn't understand why their daughter would take their own life. The police noticed that all of the mirrors in the house had been smashed. All of the reflective surfaces in the house had been covered as well. When they came across the young woman's diary, They found something strange scrawled on the last pages. Over and over she had written, "My right eye is staring at me. My right eye is staring at me. My right eye is staring at me. My right eye is staring at me."